Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another week with our literacy lessons, and we're going to be continuing to write our own version of the chapter from Edward Tulane, where Edward ended up in the garbage. So I'm just going to share my screen with you to get started today. And we're going to start by editing these sentences. So I'd like you to pause the video and rewrite these sentences with the correct punctuation to indicate the speech. So remember, you need to figure out who said it and how did they say it. That's your reporting clause. Then put speech marks, capital letter, punctuation around the speech part of the sentence. When you're ready to see the answers, come back and press play. Okay, hopefully you've had a chance to have a go at that one. I'm just going to quickly do it on the screen here. So I've got, I feel so alone, Edward whispered. Now I know Edward whispered, that is my reporting clause. So I know that that's who said it. So my speech marks will go around the part that says, I feel so alone. I've got a capital letter. Oh, no punctuation. I feel so alone, whispered Edwards. It can't be a full stop because it's not the end of the sentence. So I'm going to put a comma. And the second one, Bull shouted, Lucy, come and see what I found. Right, there's my reporting clause. Bull said it, reporting clause, which means that the next bit, Lucy, come and see what I found, is the speech. So my speech marks go around the speech. I need to check it's got a capital letter and it needs some punctuation at the end. I could either do a full stop because it's the end of the sentence, or I could change that into an exclamation mark because he's shouting. It makes sense to have it as an exclamation mark. So today we are going to be continuing our missing chapter. We wrote the first part of our chapter last week and we're going to be continuing now. So just remind yourself, what is the purpose of a fiction text? Can you remember what is a fiction text? A fiction text is used to entertain somebody. And who is the audience for the Edward Tulane book? Shout it out. It is children or people who are interested in stories about toys. So today we're going to be focusing our second paragraph on the chapter, where Edward was in the trash, and we're going to be focusing this paragraph on who finds him. So we introduced that he was in the most disgusting garbage filled. I saw some fantastic examples of what nasty things he might be lying on up on Seesaw and in our community classroom. A very, very, very big well done to everybody for their descriptive skills of a garbage dump. Hope you enjoyed writing that. Looks like you did. So now we're going to discuss or introduce the characters who are going to find him. So have a think to yourself. Who found Edward? Who found him when he's lying in the dump? It was Lucy. Lucy the dog found him. And then she digs him out of the rubbish. She thinks he's a real rabbit, so she wants to make pie for him, of course. She takes him over to the other character. Who is that character that she brings him to? That person's name is Bull. B-U-L-L. Bull. Bull and Lucy are tramps. They are homeless people. Well, one human and one dog. A homeless man and his dog who wander the country, meeting up with other tramps and just exploring the world. They call themselves, they are lost. They say, we are lost, okay? So we're going to introduce this man and his dog and rewrite that section of the chapter, okay, where Lucy's going to find him and bring him to Bull. So let's have a look at the original text when Edward had fallen off the boat and he's been sunk at the bottom of the ocean, and now he's going to be found by his new owner. So the original text says, Edward was wondering whether he could drown when the wide net of a fisherman grabbed him. The net lifted him higher and higher until he reached the surface, and there was an explosion of light. He was lying on the deck of a ship surrounded by fish. This ain't no fish, a voice said. I'll take you home for Nellie. The man sailed Edward back to shore and carried him to his home. Nellie, his wife, was baking in the kitchen. It smelt of bread and cinnamon. Look what I've got for you, he said, holding out Edward. Oh, Lawrence, she's beautiful, Nellie responded, clapping her hands. So we're going to be using speech in our paragraph today to introduce the characters. So let's have a look at the examples of speech in our original text. It says, this ain't no fish, I'll take you home for Nellie. How does that move the story forward? You can pause the video, say your answer out loud. How does it move the story forward? Okay, well, it tells us what is going to happen because he's going to take her home. So it aids the story by giving us a clear series of events, what's going to happen. And if we look at the next bit of text, it says, "Look what I've got for you," he said, holding out Edward. "Oh, Lawrence, she's beautiful," Nellie responded, clapping her hands. What does this tell me about the characters? Again, you could pause the video if you'd like some time to think. But this shows me how the characters feel about Edward. So I know that Lawrence loves Nellie and Nellie loves Edward. Okay, so it helps me understand the relationship between those characters. It's very important. So today we're going to be using speech that moves the story forward and tells us something about the character. We're not going to waste any speech saying unnecessary things. We want our speech to serve a purpose. So what are we going to be writing? First, our first sentence or our first section is going to focus on how is Edward going to be found. Then we're going to introduce that first character, Lucy, okay, and she's going to dig him up. Then we're going to say, where does Lucy take him? Or Lucy and Bull, I should say. And finally, what does our new owner say about Edward? So we're going to be jumping straight into it today. Again, it's a my turn, your turn. Of course, you can refer back to our original text if you like ideas for language, but I've put some up on the screen for you. So first, we're going to discuss how is Edward found. So in the original text, it says, Edward was wondering whether he could drown when the wide net of a fisherman grabbed him. He was trapped. The net lifted him higher and higher until he reached the surface and there was an explosion of light. So we've got a few sentences here to describe what is happening and how it changes. So maybe we could start our sentence with something like, smothered by garbage, Edward was wondering if it would ever end. A snuffling by his head alerted him to the presence of an unknown beast, okay? Or maybe eventually, we could use eventually to show he's been there quite a while. Eventually, something changed when he heard the pitter-patter of paws creeping closer, okay? So have a think. What is Lucy going to do? I should say Lucy's a girl. Is she going to nibble on his feet? Is she going to drool on his head? Is she going to clamp her jaws around his arm? How is she going to find him? Is she just going to sniff around until she finds a bit of a rabbit ear nearby? So just think to yourself, as a dog digging through the garbage, how do you want Edward to be found? Well, I'm going to go write mine, so I'm just going to switch it over so you can see my book today. I finally got myself the visualizer working. I've got my steps to the success to the side of which sentence I'm going to be writing. So we're going to do this one. How is the main character found? Okay, so I could, you're writing every second line just like I am now because I've got mine in a book. Here we go. So I'm going to put Edward was contemplating, that means to think, whether he would ever get out, whether he would skip a line so that I've got space to edit, ever escape, I want a strong word, escape, comma for my frontal adverbial, when he felt a dog, nibbling on his feet. How rude. Nibbling. You could say on his feet, on his ears, on his arms, on his feet. And you don't have to say a dog. You could describe it as some heavy breathing monster, some shaggy fur covered nightmare, however you want to describe the dog. So he would ever escape when he felt a dog nibbling on his feet. What's the dog going to do? How's it going to get him out? Slobbering jaws. Oh, lovely. Slobbering jaws clamped around his foot and dragged him into the sunlight. All right. So I've lovely like descriptive language for the monster, as opposed to just saying the dog picked him up. Now I'm really using that strong emotive language. Somebody slobbering all over you, gross. Slobbering jaws clamped around his foot. Okay, and then the last thing we sort of need to do is, well, where is Bull? So we need to take Edward. Lucy needs to take Edward to Bull. Okay, so maybe she's just gonna run through the garbage pile, bounding over trash. She carried him and dropped him at a pair of feet. She ran until she reached a railway, or she ran until she reached a road and dropped him below a hulking figure. Okay, so I might just say, and dragged him into the sunlight. She ran with Edward in her mouth until oh dear, I've crossed the L. Let me just cross that out. It doesn't look very good. Mouth until using those conjunctions, telling me when something's happening. She ran with Edward in her mouth until she reached a pair of feet or shoes, and there she dropped him. Full stop. I'm just going to go back, check that I've got commas, spelling's correct. I'm pretty happy. Lovely. So I can tick off, how is Edward found? Done that one. Might just use proper pen. Okay, so your turn now. I will put this screen back on. All right, you can pause the video now. I would like you to write about how is Edward found by Lucy. We're not introducing Lucy's name yet. How is he found by some monster, and does she carry him off somewhere? Pause the video, come back when you're ready for the next section. Okay, lovely. It's time for the next section of our paragraph. We're going to introduce the Lucy as a character via speech. So Bull, our character, is going to say something so that we know who he is and who Lucy is. All right, so who finds him? In the original text, it says, he was lying on the deck of a ship surrounded by fish. This ain't no fish, a man's voice said. I'll take you home for Nellie. So now I've been introduced to a man and Nellie. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to introduce Lucy and the man. Maybe they could say, now remember, our text has to add value, move the story forward, or introduce something. What have we here? Or what's this? A China rabbit? Or you can't eat this, Lucy. That's good because it introduces the name of the dog. Or you can't make rabbit pie out of this one, laughed Bull. That's lovely because again it introduces the character, and I also understand why Lucy picked up Edward. Okay, so I'm going to come across to my paragraph and I'm going to move it up slightly so that I have a bit more space. Okay, now remember, I'm starting with speech, so I need to come down onto the next line. You speak a new line. I'm not just going to add the speech in here. Okay, so speech marks to start, capital letter. I'm going to say, what's this, Lucy? And then I need punctuation and speech marks to finish. Okay, and then I need to say a reporting clause. Who said it? What's this, Lucy? Said a man. And I want to say, what is he doing? He's not just standing perfectly still, chatting into the air. He has to be doing something while he's saying it. Said a man as he picked up Edward. Okay, now I might continue. I can have a next bit of speech to introduce a bit more information about what's going to happen. So he might say, shall he take him with us? Or do you want to bring him along? Or you can't eat this. Okay, so, and because it's the same person, Bull is the only one speaking, I can continue my speech on the same line by having new speech marks. Shall we take, apologies, him with us? Okay, and then I need a punctuation to finish and speech marks to close. Okay, and now I'm going to just do one more bit of information. What's Lucy doing while all this is happening? Okay, so I'm going to come down for the next bit of information. Lucy, oh, my pen's come undone. Oops. Lucy danced around his feet barking and wagging her tail. So I'm clearly giving you a picture in your mind of how they're behaving. And wagging her tail. Full stop to finish. Right, I'm going to quickly skim this again for any errors. I've got, what's this, Lucy? Right, I can see 2 there. Okay, so I want to fix those up. I'm going to do it in a blue pen. What is a contraction, so it needs an apostrophe to separate it. And Lucy is a name. It needs a capital letter, okay? What's this, Lucy? Said a man as he picked up Edward. Shall we take him with us? Lucy danced around his feet, barking and wagging her tail. Perfect, all right? I can now tick off who found him. I know it's a man and his dog. And I know the dog's name is Lucy, all right? Okay, let me put it back on the other screen for you. You can pause the video here, and I would like you to write some speech that introduces Lucy and sort of what's happening. And just remember with your reporting clause to say what are the characters doing while they're talking. Pause the video, come back when you're ready for the next section. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you've written out those first 2 bits of our paragraph. We've got just a couple more sentences to add. Now we're going to be going into where do they take him? So again, looking at the original text, we've got the man sailed back to shore and carried him to his home. Nellie, his wife, was baking in the kitchen. It smelt of bread and cinnamon. So I know immediately that he's gone back to shore, to his home, to the kitchen. Now, we don't have to be as explicit as that and say exactly where Lucy and Bull are walking to, but we do need to say that they're going to take Edward with them on their travels, okay? And we might start that with something like tucked into Bull's backpack, bouncing along, or feeling relieved to be out of the trash, okay? Really trying to communicate what's happening or how Edward is feeling. So let me switch over to my book. I'm going to shift it up just a little bit more. Okay, so I'm continuing that same paragraph, all right? And if you haven't introduced the character's name, well, now I can make sure I could say something like the man who was called Bull, or the man known as Bull did something and something, okay? So the man, and this is extra information, the man, comma, who was called Bull, comma, because it's like a separate bit of information, the man who was called Bull. We are sticking to the original names in the story here. Next week, you'll be creating your own, and you can have full creative liberty in who you want to call your characters. The man who is called Bull, where is he going to put Edward? All right, so we're taking where does he put him? Where does he take him? The man who was called Bull placed Edward into his backpack. Okay, so it placed him into his backpack, and where are they going? And set off exploring the dumpster, or set off traveling down the road. I'm going to say into his backpack and set off walking down the road. So I'm not saying a particular place where he's going, but I am making it clear that he's just off down the road. He's on a walk, okay? So I can tick off now. Where do they take them? And I'm going to pop it back on the screen for you. I'd like you to pause the video now and quickly write out that sentence and then come back once you are ready for the final sentence in our paragraph. All right, welcome back. Last sentence that we're going to be doing is we're going to add a little bit more speech about what does the character say about Edward. Okay, so what does Bull say? All right, so maybe he says something to Lucy like, he's our friend now, or you'll be a great friend for us, or you could be lost with us. That's a nice one because it tells me how the character feels about himself. He calls himself lost, okay, which is a good bit of information to know since we don't know, we haven't said to the reader, he's a homeless man. We're trying to make him understand. We're trying to make the reader understand he's a homeless man without saying he's a homeless man. So it's a nice way to say you can be lost with us. It implies that he is homeless because he doesn't have a place to go. He is lost. So let me just switch back over one more time for our last bit of speech. I might say something like, I think you like Edward, don't you, Lucy? Bull said, patting the dog. Yes. Something like that. Okay, so my last bit of speech, again, it's a new speaker, new line, so I'm going to do my speech marks to start me off, and capital letter, I think. So remember, our first speech told me what was happening. It tells me it's moving the story forward. They're going to take Edward with him. This is going to tell me more about how they feel. Okay, I think you like, and now he's not called Edward. Bull and Lucy would not know his name is Edward, so you can pick a name here. What would you like to call it? I'm going to call Beryl. I think you like Beryl. You can call him whatever name you want. I think you like Beryl. Don't you, Lucy? Okay, and then I need punctuation to finish, so I need a comma because it's not the end of the sentence, no full stops. Speech marks, and I'm going to say Bull said, although you can use a better word than said is dead. Bull said, and I want to say, how is he doing it? Bull said, patting the dog. Okay, and I might just add just a little bit of, maybe because he's a homeless man, maybe he talks to himself, so I'm going to add just a little bit more speech and say, yes, so do I. And because this is continued speech, it's not somebody new say something, I don't need a reporting clause at the end. I need a full stop because it's the end of the sentence, and speech marks to close. All right. I'm going to put it back on the screen. I'd like you to pause the video now, and I'd like you to write that final bit of speech that tells me how the characters feel about the new toy that they found. Once you've done that, please come back and press play for the last little bit of the lesson. Okay, welcome back. Our last thing that we're going to do is we're going to edit our paragraph to see if we can make it better, okay? I forgot to tick off what the new owner says about Edward. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the start and I'm going to read it and see if I can make it just a little bit better. Edward was contemplating whether he would ever escape when he felt a dog nibbling on his feet. I'm pretty happy with that. We did edit this paragraph already, but that's okay. It's always good to check in. Slobbering jaws clamped around his foot and dragged. Now, I like these words, slobbering, clamped, and dragged, because they're strong. If you don't have strong words, could you maybe go back? See if there's any words that you think, oh, it's just a little bit soft. I could make it a more interesting word. Dragged him into the sunlight. She ran with Edward in her mouth until she reached a pair of shoes, and there she dropped him. So I'm happy with the first section of my paragraph. Let's move on to the next bit, the bit that we hadn't really edited. What's this, Lucy? Said a man as he picked up Edward. Shall we take him with us? Lucy danced around his feet, barking and wagging her tail. The man, who was called Bull, placed... Oh, Edward. Edward is a name. What does it need? needs a capital letter. So I'm going to edit on the line above, fixing up that capital. Edward into his backpack and set off walking down the road. Now I think that's a bit of a boring sentence, set off walking down the road, because he's not, like, walking sounds like he's going somewhere on purpose. So I'm actually going to change, up level this word, walking. Maybe he was wandering down the road, okay, meandering down the road. And it really changes the way that the sentence sounds. So I'm going to change it to wandering. He set off wandering. Now, wandering makes more sense because you wander when you have no place to go. So it really starts to bring the idea in that this man is homeless because he doesn't have anywhere to go. Okay, keep going. Wandering down the road. I think you like Beryl, don't you, Lucy? Now that should be a comma there. I think you like Beryl, don't you, Lucy? So it should be a comma, and don't should have an apostrophe because it is a contraction. And last but not least, I've got Lucy. Lucy should have a capital letter. Always remember, names, places, months need capital letters. I think you like Beryl, don't you, Lucy? Bull said, patting the dog. Yes, yes, so do I. Perfect. I'm happy with that now. So please go and edit your work, okay, before you take a picture. But of course, once you've done that, take a picture, upload it onto Seesaw because we'd love to see your writing and we look forward to giving you feedback on it. Have a lovely rest of the day and I'll see you tomorrow to write the next paragraph for Edward to Lane. Bye.